Hey, what's up? This is Justin Gaynor from Gentleman's Purpose here in sunny South Florida. It has been an absolutely beautiful day again. I was hanging out over at the Tiki Bar at Anchor Inn today with my friend Rob, and just some amazing things going on there. The place was packed. Got a big football game going on tonight, and it has just been a lot of fun this week and just such beautiful weather. Got a good show for you guys tonight, and I'm certainly hoping that you will interact using the comments section either on Facebook or on Instagram. And if you're on Instagram, hi, what's up? Hope you're doing okay. You can also interact on via YouTube as well. And so, what are we going to be talking about tonight? Well, we're going to be looking at talking about musical inclinations, dress shirts, and facing facts, as well as making friends as we go. And so musical inclinations. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I am not musically talented in any way, shape, or form. However, I love music. I love the idea of playing music, and I'm willing to practice to become better at it. I remember being a child in music class in elementary, and we'd have like these big shows and cantatas and stuff like that, and I would kind of move my mouth but not really sing because I felt like I was that bad. I played the xylophone pretty good though. Um, but as I grew older, got really involved with a church, Calvary Chapel, that's very very much into developing young musicians. Actually, Calvary Chapel Fort Lauderdale has a school for musicians called, I think it's called Ocean's Edge, where they take people who actually have natural talent, and they develop that talent to where they are able to use that in a very powerful way. And so attending that church, I had an opportunity to meet some really cool people who were involved with the youth ministry there and everything. And I was actually, there's a link to a worship night that was held in my backyard at one point in time by the students, the teenagers and stuff who were part of the youth group at the church. And to me, whenever I listen to that, and there's a link to it, it's on YouTube, but it's just one of the most amazing things. When I think about raising children and wanting them to be good kids who are solid in character, I mean, these kids could have been out doing anything, and they came over to my house and are hanging out on the patio, playing guitars and djembes and drums and all sorts of different instruments and just singing their hearts out. And it was amazing to me, and I just felt so blessed by it. And I'm just thinking to myself, in a day and age when kids are just, a lot of kids just, they don't have the guidance that's necessary for them to develop a skill like that and to actually put the gifts God's given them into really really good use. And as part of Calvary Chapel there in Boynton Beach, that actually was not the case. They were nurtured very well. They developed their musical skills among other skills and talents and things. And I got to participate or actually be blessed by that in a very very big way. Just in sitting there and listening to them and listening to their hearts, it was amazing. And so, gentlemen, as musicians, I mean, I don't know if you're like me, you kind of grew up watching Andy Griffith's show and strumming the guitar on the porch swing and that sort of stuff. And I just think that's amazing, and it's so much better than just kind of everybody zoning out and doing their own thing. To sit around and engage with different forms of music, with actually instruments and things. I think it was my friend Tracy. She and her husband were missionaries to Peru, and also hugely musically talented. You can look her up on YouTube. It's Tracy Renee. I'll put a link in the comments section for you to check that out. And but the thing that she always did, she would actually make instruments, like just to make some odd or strange sound and be able to kind of work that into the track. And I just thought that was super cool. Anytime I see that level of creativity in someone and them actually putting that to use in a positive way, it's super encouraging. So we as men, if we have a musical inclinations, then we need to find out kind of what we like. I mean, I've taken guitar lessons. I have had many people show me how to do some chords and things through the years. I think probably my favorite instrument has been a ukulele. Love playing the ukulele. It just has that island vibe to it, and it's a relatively easy instrument to learn. And then I guess you could always move up to like a mandolin or like a guitar or something. But the idea is that you learn these things, just because it's something to gather people around and actually engage in something that is that's common to most people. Most people really enjoy different types of music, And when you can actually be a part of that rather than just being a spectator, it's so engaging. It's so good for you to be able to kind of express yourself that way. And so definitely want to encourage you as gentlemen to think about picking up a guitar. I mean, you can pick up a guitar for a couple $100 and just start to learn how to play a couple chords or something like that. And you might not have a good singing voice, but maybe your wife does, or maybe your kids do, and you can play the guitar along with that, and it can always be just a really fun time. And so yeah, so that's one of my favorite things too. If you go to like some of the pubs, they have these local musician nights where it's kind of like a open mic night. They do it also at the coffee bar down in Lake Worth on J Street, Common Grounds Brew and Roastery. And I think they're going to probably be doing it at the coffee shop Common Grounds that just opened in Boynton as well. They do poetry reading, and like songwriters will come in. They'll do like a thing called Songwriter in the Round. So just local people that have written songs, and they'll come out and play the guitar and strum the guitar and sing the songs, and it's amazing. I mean, it's such a blessing to be able to be a part of that. And so I definitely want to encourage you guys, if you have any desire whatsoever, and it's just kind of been one of those things you put on the back burner, that you may have a purpose in your music, and so I want to encourage you to explore that a little bit more. And so that's in Gentleman's Purpose e-magazine, which you can go to. It's going across the bottom of the screen there, issue.com/Gentleman's Purpose. You can subscribe. This month, we're actually giving away free access to the November edition, the Thanksgiving edition. And so check it out, see what you think about it. As I'm always taking suggestions, and again, as I mentioned last night, I'm always looking for new writers and photographers and people who want to be a part of the project. And so just want to encourage you to consider that as well. Next thing I want to talk about is dress shirts. And in the style section of the magazine, I've explored kind of some of my things that I've gone through as a young man, learning to dress for success, to dress for business, and my adventure in learning how to tie a tie in a clutch situation when I actually should have learned how to tie a tie long before that. But when it comes to buying dress shirts, there's so many different types of dress shirts, and styles change from time to time. I personally don't work in an office setting anymore, so I don't have to do the shirt and tie all the time. But sometimes I still find myself in meetings where it's a little bit more of a professional level situation, and so I have to break out the iron and actually iron a shirt. You can of course always take them to the dry cleaners. My actually one of my students that I'm mentoring, Huang from Vietnam, he owns a dry cleaning store in Palm Beach Gardens, and so he's in that business. And so if you need a dry cleaner and you're in Palm Beach Gardens, go see Huang. He's a good dude, and he'll give you a good reasonable price on doing your shirts and things. But I personally, so I've started to buy shirts, my dress shirts that are basically wrinkle free. That's always something to look for. Those are always going to still need to be ironed most of the time. I mean, if you pull them right out of the dryer and hang them up, then you might be okay. But it's always good. Get yourself a little squirt bottle of water, spritz it down a little bit, and iron it, and you'll be good to go. You might think to yourself, I am not ironing any clothes. I do not want to iron clothes. Let me just tell you. In college, I had a roommate named J. Guy Carter, and J. Guy Carter was one of the coolest guys that ever walked the face of the planet. I mean, just a cool guy, and so, but ironing was his thing. I mean, he had this excitement about ironing. He would say, "Give me your shirts, I will iron them." I'd say, "Well, here you go, have at it, buddy," and because he found it very peaceful to be able to take something that was a little bit rough around the edges, so to speak, and make it nice and smooth and clean. And that was like his meditation time or something. And so that's important also. We talked a little bit about that last night when I mentioned Brother Lawrence and the book that he wrote, Practicing the Presence of God, where he was kind of a monastic monk and would wash dishes and stuff. That was one of his chores. And he learned to focus on the fact that God is with us and God is in us and the kingdom of heaven is in the midst of us. And he learned to meditate and experience God even in those mundane day-to-day things. And if we can do that, if we can value time like that and be focused like that, That's a pretty amazing thing, and there's a blessing in that. There's a blessing in the water. No, that's a good song though. So anyway, so dress shirts. Again, it's always really good to wear an undershirt, gentlemen. And again, a lot of you guys, I know you know these things, but you know what? Nobody ever told me these things. I kind of learned them as I went. So, especially if you're wearing a white shirt, light colored shirt, even dark shirts, actually, you want to wear an undershirt, and nice cotton undershirt that can breathe well. You want to iron the shirt, make it nice and clean. If the shirt gets a little bit older and gets maybe some rings around the neck from from sweat and stuff like that, and when you wear a dress shirt, you're wearing a dress shirt because you're presenting yourself as professional. So at that point in time, it might need be time to switch to pick up a new shirt. And so this is important because when we find ourselves in a situation as gentlemen when we have to dress nicely and we have to dress a little bit more formally, um, it is a representation of the level of respect that you're showing that the person that you're meeting with, in a business setting. And so it is something to be taken seriously. It's something that again I learned as I went. I certainly was trained in it in business school, and those things were pointed out when there was like a speech class or something like that. Because you want to again you want to get your best foot forward, especially nowadays when more and more people are going on interviews and things like that. And so these are important skill sets that we need to know, gentlemen. And it's an important skill sets that we need to actually have these conversations with our sons as well, because we want them to develop into young men who are attentive to how they present themselves, and also because oftentimes when we present ourselves, we're not only representing ourselves, but we are representing our sphere of people, if you will, our people group. Whether you're part of a church or part of a company or whoever you're part of, you are a representative of more than just yourself in many cases, and how we present ourselves in those moments and in those situations can make or break certain situations. Some people are pickier than others. Some people are more laid back, and you just never know. I mean, I've actually, kind of found myself in situations where I was the culture of the company that I stepped into was a lot more laid back than I was used to, and so I had to kind of dial it down a little bit. And so that's why when you engage in these things, it's better to be overdressed though at first and then tone it down than to come in all sloppy and then have to and then you probably you won't be coming back after the interview. So it's important to think these things through and to make good choices with this. The clothes that you buy, it doesn't have to be Armani or anything like that. But I mean, if you can afford Armani, why not buy Armani? But if you can't, I mean, there are very, very nice clothes that can be purchased at places like Men's Warehouse or Brooks Brothers or something like that. Jose Bank is a great place where you can get really good clothes, and oftentimes you can find sales and things that are available to be able to get some nice clothes. Every man should own at least one or two suits, without question. If you're going to buy a suit and you're only going to have one or two, maybe go with a normal dark gray suit or a dark blue suit. Black suit's okay also. And again, you can accessorize that with different color shirts and ties and everything like that, so it doesn't look like you're always wearing the same thing. Obviously, if you're dressing in a suit and tie every day, 5 days a week, then you'll probably want more than one suit. But you'll definitely want more than one suit. But so those are important things. And if you go into any of the places that I mentioned, Jose Bank or Men's Warehouse, they have folks there who are very skilled at doing what they do, and they can lead you in making sure that you have the right fit for you, so you're comfortable and not like all tight and everything like that. But you're able to present yourself well, but still be relatively comfortable. Not as much as flip flops and jeans, but it is what it is. And so that's important. And so consider that. Take a look at your wardrobe. Make sure that you break out the good clothes every once in a while, especially on date night with the missus. Some ladies like that sort of thing. Not all the time, but occasionally. And so with regard to that, I want to kind of switch gears to our next topic here, and that's facing facts. One of the things that I am going over with my students is, and I mentioned this before, is that we are reading the book by Dave Ramsey called Total Money Makeover. See there? Woo. Okay, there we go. Total Money Makeover with Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey's hardcore, and I mentioned this before. And actually, one of the first chapters and one of the first discussions that I had with my mentees was essentially about kind of being honest with ourselves, because not just in our finances, but in everything. Because so oftentimes we kind of have our vision of what we want in life, and we're walking towards that, and that's a good thing. But sometimes we have blind spots and we don't really understand certain areas of our own lives and what's going on in those. And that can be detrimental to our ability to actually attain that vision. You would think that if I have a vision, I'm just going for it. That's all I really need to do. I don't really need to pay too much attention to these side issues like finances and stuff like that. And that is simply not true. I mean, you have to be a well balanced man. That's why we encourage you to fulfill your purpose while keeping your balance in all things. And so when we talk about facing the facts and really considering where you are in various areas of your life, and actually sitting down, taking inventory from time to time, and looking at the actual facts of how things actually are versus the way that you would like them to be or the way that you think they are. And that's always good to bring in a third part or a third or second party, or you, God, and a third party, bring into the situation and kind of, get a second set of eyes on things. Because again, as Dave talks about in his book, a lot of times it talks about, we're in denial. In other words, we think we're better off financially than we actually are. We like to convince ourselves that we're in better health than we actually are, and we don't take care of ourselves as much as we ought to as we get older. We don't realize that, your body isn't the same. My body isn't the same as it was when I was 25 years old, and so now I'm, 40 years old, and so my metabolism and all that stuff has changed, and it's very weird when your body goes through those changes, and you really have to exercise more and really focus a lot on what your actual food intake is and what types of foods you're putting in your body. Those are all very important things, because you have to take good care of yourself. If you take good care of yourself, you'll be around longer to love the people that love you, and you'll be around a lot longer to love them and to be loved. And you'll be able to have years that you can enjoy rather than years where you're struggling with health issues, because you weren't eating right and exercising and all those sorts of things. So those are things that we need to encourage one another with. It's always good to have a gym partner. For me, when it comes to actually taking care of our physical body and facing the facts of where we are physically, probably the best shape that I was ever in my life was my buddy Federico, Luis Federico. He was with he's a salesman with 3M. I think I mentioned him on another show. But he and I, when I first actually was baptized into Christ, he and I kind of connected as just kind of, I don't know if you want to call it accountability partners or whatever, but we would basically get up before work every morning and we would head over to the YMCA here in Boynton Beach, and we would basically work out for about an hour at, like, I don't know, 6 a.m. or something like that. And we did so for a solid year, and I felt better. I was just all around better physically. And so having someone who actually comes alongside you and actually walks that journey with you is super, super important. So I want to encourage you in that. Beyond that, though, I mean, we need to think of more than just our physical bodies. We also need to think about the development of our soul. And when I talk about our soul, I am referring to not kind of the spiritual part of you that floats off to heaven when you die or anything like that, but more the Jewish biblical sense, what's called the nefesh, which is your whole being. It's who you are. It's the mind, the way that you think. It's the way that you behave and respond. It's your triggers. It's your passions. It's all of these sorts of things, and we develop these things and we nourish these things by what we consume, both in entertainment and reading and study, and just our experiences, our life experiences. All of these things inform who we are as a person, and if we focus on developing our nefesh, if we focus on developing our soul, we have the potential of becoming really good people who really reflect the goodness of God a lot better than we did in our earlier years. And so that's part of what it means to grow and continue to become more and more truly human as we walk through this very difficult and challenging life, but this beautiful, beautiful life that is truly life. And so nourishing your body, taking care of your body by eating right and exercising, nourishing your mind, your nefesh, and it's not always just kind of what you put into your body too. Having conversations, two-way conversations where you're listening to other people's ideas, you're learning not to, judge other people or constantly be thinking yourself, well, when's it going to be my turn to talk? But rather you are super, super engaging in actually listening to that other human being. You might not always agree with what they say, and that's okay. But you can listen to what they say, and with that level of respect shown to them, then more than likely that's the seed you're planting, so that's what you ought to be reaping, and that they will also open their ears and be willing to listen to the things that you have to say. And perhaps there will be things that we have to table for a while that we can't agree on, but we can always come back to that table and revisit it later, having allowed wisdom and time and God to impact our hearts and our minds and to transform our nefesh into more grace, more truth, and certainly more faith, hope, and love. And so facing facts is important, but facts are not always truth. And this is kind of a conversation I had with someone when I was up in North Carolina. We would gather around at a beer and wine store on the first and third Monday, and there were decision makers from the whole city that were there, the mayor and pastors and everything, and the whole thing was facilitated by three ministers from various different churches, and they would basically pose two questions to the group, and we would have a couple glasses of wine, we'd have a couple of glasses of beer. Of course, there were some folks there who were adamantly against consuming alcohol, and this was the Bible Belt, so that wasn't an uncommon thing. But one lady told me, she would rather drink toilet water than have a beer, and I was like, okay, well, that might be that to her that was fact, that drinking beer was just such an awful thing to do that she would rather drink toilet water than drink a beer, and that was a fact for her. And so, but the truth is what God says in the scriptures. See, what the truth is a spirit, and the truth is what God says. And God says that the kingdom of heaven is not a matter of what you eat, and it's not a matter of what you drink. The kingdom of heaven is a matter of joy and peace in the Holy Spirit. And so, I'm not going to break fellowship with someone because they don't drink, and I'm not going to break fellowship with somebody because they do drink. That has nothing to do with the kingdom of heaven. It has nothing to do with actually being a child of God. And so those are those things that we say are facts, but really those aren't. They might be facts for those people, but they're not truth, because truth applies to everybody and everything. And so facing facts is important, but then understanding how that applies and what the truth is. It's the difference between looking at the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, the letter of the Torah and the spirit of the Torah. And so that being said, let's go ahead and move on to making friends as we go, because as I mentioned, that group of people, I met an extremely diverse group of people. I mean, ideologies that were complete opposite. And as we converse with one another in that setting, to me, what blew my mind is I've been in more arguments, and I won't call it arguments. Let's call it strong fellowship at like a Southern Baptist, business meeting, and yet here we were focusing on two highly controversial questions with people in the room who were of all sorts of different, ideologies and backgrounds and different church ideas and political ideas and all these sorts of things. And this thing that was orchestrated by these three ministers, there was such a sense of calm and peace there that these things were wrestled with and these things were engaged with. And a lot of things, we had to table a lot of these things at the end of the night and say, we had some great discussion. I don't know that we made a lot of progress, but we loved one another enough to listen to one another, to care about where the other person was coming from. And though we may have still had to table the issue and haven't come to truth in that yet, it was a beautiful thing. And in that we can develop relationships and friends with people as we go through life, that are amazing. And some friendships are going to be more associations. Some friendships are going to be, that's my boy or that's my girl for life. And but some people, and then it can go to an intimate level, and when you actually engage in a place where there is a genuine self-giving love for another person, and this comes down to actually relationships. When you're going through life and you're running for the goal, and you see and you look next to you and you see someone who's running in the same direction, that may or may not be the person for you. And so as you kind of explore those things and you move through life and we develop these different relationships, we need to be wide open to the things that God is doing, because you never know. You never know how God's going to do this or pivot there or do this. And learning to walk in the Holy Spirit and learning to grow and to flourish and to develop relationships with people is so vital. And we want to be the type of men, gentlemen, who, when we develop relationships, that we say what we mean, that we engage with people in a way that's honest and a way that is respectful for who they are, so that we can have the kind of relationship that's founded on the kind of truth that I'm talking about. And if we have a relationship that's founded on truth, um, you are going to see so much more fruit from that. And it's sometimes difficult to develop those relationships in the workplace and stuff like that, because there's so many people vying for position and this and that. But Jesus' disciples were always doing the same thing: who's going to be the greatest among us, and all this sort of stuff. And that stuff happens. That's unfortunately the sin nature that we have. But if we are really seeking to be a people of faith and a people of hope and a people of love, then we are going to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. And so as gentlemen, it's something that we need to be intentional about and be able to set the example for those who look to us, whether it's our children, whether it's our spouse, whether it's our coworkers. We have a responsibility as men who are created in the image of God to represent Him well. And we don't always. We make mistakes and we do stupid stuff sometimes, and praise God for forgiveness and grace and mercy and all those sorts of things. But if we're actually focused on what the Spirit is actually doing and trying to walk in the Spirit of God, we are going to be able to be the types of people who are at peace with God and men, and it is a beautiful thing. And so I've made some amazing relationships and amazing friends over the years in my travels. From Central Florida here to South Florida to North Carolina and back to South Florida, and some of those people are still connected, and some of those people are people that I trust and who I can have those conversations with, and some people are acquaintances. I like to have I like to. I'm a people person. I love people. I love to develop a relationship as much as I can, because people are valuable. They're valuable to God and they're valuable to me. And so with that said, I want to share with you a poem by our friend Michael O'Siadhill from Ireland, and as we have been doing for the last couple nights. And this is a poem called "For My Friends." And this is just a beautiful poem. It's a much shorter poem than what we listened to last night. I hope you have by now gone to osiadhill.com and checked that out. The link will be in the comment section. But he says this: "For my friends, spendthrift friendships, once raveled and unraveled, carefree, leisurely as a journey without a plan, easy come, easy go. There was a while I traveled lightly, made my friends, catch as catch can. Gradually, the casual twisted, the precious weave, the tissue of feeling in which I've grown. Though I follow a single thread, I must believe that bound to the whole, we never drift alone. Drifted, crossed, matted fibers long and wrought, friendships prove the fabric of a common story. The web which takes the strain of every thought, shares the fray or stain, joys in our glory. Interwoven, at last I dare to move without misgiving. I touch the invisible, love this gaze of living." So that is, again, a poem called "For My Friends," written by Michael O'Siadhill. And so I'll put that along with Tracy's information in the comment section for you to kind of check out and read a little bit further. So in closing, explore your musical inclinations. It will be a blessing to you and it will be a blessing to others. Make sure that if you are in a position where you are going to be representing yourself or others in a more formal fashion, that you invest in some good shirts and at least one suit. Make sure they're well pressed, and again, some nice ties as well. Facing facts, be honest with yourself, overcome those inclinations to engage in denial, and as you meet people going through life and engaging in all of these various different things and exploring and fulfilling your purpose, keeping your balance in all things, being aware of those small moments where where you are experiencing, you're focused, you're watchful, and that you are gathering up creation's praises. So when you come before God on the Lord's Day, you can give thanks with a grateful heart. And so again, don't let life just kind of go by, and don't go through life without actually experiencing it. So want to encourage you with all that. This is Justin Gaynor at Gentleman's Purpose Live, and I am signing out for the evening after I encourage you one more time to go to issue.com/gentleman's purpose and check out this month's magazine. It's free, won't cost you anything this month, and let me know what you think. All right, have a great day.